Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Driven Wyld. Today, we are talking about Amazon, Doordash, Walmart must address labor violation allegations, UN says. So, the gig economy is no stranger to being attacked by government involvement in a negative way, and in this case, we are being attacked on an international level. The United Nations decided to poke their nose into an industry that they're not really welcome in either way, but why not stir up the international turmoil that is already existing in this goddamn world? So with that said, I want to go over everything that's being said in this article, how it actually is for DoorDash, UberEats, and Grubhub drivers and their corresponding companies, and everything in between. So with that said, let's get started. A United Nations poverty expert has called on the CEOs of Amazon, DoorDash, and Walmart to address the allegations that inadequate pay, hostile union busting tactics, and misclassification of workers as independent contractors are trapping workers in poverty. Jesus Christ, with some of these people. There are literal wars taking place across the pond, and you guys are focused on a subject that you're not even welcome in. The people that are independent contractors for these companies are happy being independent contractors for these companies. Stop trying to poke your nose in issues that aren't something you should be poking your nose in. It's not that freaking hard. Amazon Flex. A lot of workers love working with Amazon Flex. DoorDash. Do you know how many people preferred working with DoorDash than normal 9-to-5 jobs? Because they make more money and have more freedom. Walmart Spark. People are saying make a bunch more money on Walmart Spark than they ever did at any normal job. And that's not even to mention how different that is compared to their employees in the same business. So maybe instead of worrying about us being independent contractors, you could worry about the employee side of things, because none of us who are independent contractors want you poking your nose in these issues. Okay. I am extremely disturbed that workers in some of the world's most profitable companies in one of the most richest countries on earth are struggling to afford to eat or pay their rent. Olivier de Schutter, the UN-appointed independent expert on extreme poverty and human rights, said in separate letters to the company's CEOs, multi-billion-dollar companies should be setting the standard for workers' conditions and wages, not violating the human rights of their workers by failing to pay them a decent wage. And just like that, you realized why they're the most richest companies in the world. Because they understand that this isn't a wage opportunity. We work as much or as little as we want to. Should the base pay be higher on each of these platforms? Sure. But that doesn't mean it's a misclassification. In fact, you don't even speak the same language as half of these people. Are you out of your freaking mind? Maybe learn some economics before poking your nose and shit. I'm not saying we don't need government involvement. I'm saying if you don't know what the people really want, don't speak for them. A recent UN report authored by de Schutter on extreme poverty and human rights found that 6.3 million people in the United States, representing 4.1% of workers, are classified as working poor. The U.S. working poor are defined as people who have spent at least 27 weeks during the year working or looking for work but have incomes below the national poverty line. 14,580 for individuals and 19,720 for a family of two. I could speak for a lot of DoorDash drivers. They're making more than these numbers part-time, let alone full-time. And sure, are there places in the country where these opportunities aren't as viable? Sure, but the people who do that end up leaving the gig economy and going to a normal job anyway, or have their own business that they start at the end of the day. Many workers at Amazon, DoorDash, and Walmart qualify as working poor. A 2020 Government Accountability Office report found that Amazon, DoorDash, and Walmart were among the top employers of recipients of government medical and food assistance. Because the people who work on these platforms are 1099 independent contractors and can write off a lot of the expenses that they're incurring as tax write-offs. Like, did you even think about that before making a stupid statement like that? People who are independent contractors have the same privileges as somebody who's in business for themselves, being able to write off a lot of their expenses. The amount of miles they're putting on their car, the gas they're expending, other tools and resources they may need, like the bags that they need, delivery wagons, things to that effect, meals, their phone bill, internet. It's like they saw a first page of a full book on how the gig economy works, and suddenly they thought, oh, obviously, they're working poor. And yeah, are there people who are actually on welfare or getting medical and food assistance that are also on the platforms? Sure. A lot of them are retired. A lot of them have decided to go into the gig economy because they can keep those benefits because that's what they prefer. And honestly, I don't even know why you guys even have a problem with it. It's not even your country. How about you focus on all of the other countries that are having problems? I'm pretty sure the ones that are exploding can use your help. Jobs are supposed to provide a pathway out of poverty. Yet in all three companies, the business model seems to be to shift operating costs onto the public by relying on government benefits to supplement miserably low wages, the Shutter said. In all of the most uneducated statements I have ever heard. Oh my god. Pathway out of poverty. A W-2 job by no means is a pathway out of poverty. Like saying you work 8 hours a day and actually working 12. Abusive bosses. Not even being able to pay for basic needs in their own homes on the low wages they're already making in these jobs. Not to mention how expensive everything is getting. I honestly think it would be irresponsible to not be an independent contractor and maximize the tax benefits to the best of your ability. At least in this day and age. My god. The ability of workers at these companies to negotiate higher wages is inhibited by aggressive union busting activities. Walmart, the largest employer in the US, has engaged in decades of anti-union activities, which include shutting down stores over labor activism in 2022. Amazon purportedly spent more than $14.2 million on anti-union consultants. Doordash, one of the leading gig platforms, has fired employees for union organizing and publicly opposed wage increase ordinances for its workers. You see, that's how you know that these people don't know the first thing about what they do. They refer to gig workers as employees, not independent contractors. And sure, there were some DoorDash unions that took place, but honestly, the large majority of DoorDash, UberEats, and Grubhub drivers prefer the independents and prefer to be independent contractors because not all of our goals are the same. Do I need to say it slower for the slow people in the United Nations? Probably. Now, can you say that Walmart has been abusive to their employees? Absolutely. Walmart Spark, on the other hand, we don't have those same problems. Amazon, have they been abusive to their employees? Absolutely. Have they been abusive to their Amazon Flex drivers or their Amazon sellers? I would not say that. That being said, I am not too deep into the Amazon game as of yet, but at the same time, that's not a problem that DoorDash had. So stop trying to identify the problem as something that has nothing to do with the fact that we're independent contractors. You're trying to solve the wrong problem in justification of trying to make companies do things that you shouldn't have the authority to make companies do. It appears the US is turning a blind eye to the union busting activities of its most powerful corporations, allowing them to steamroll workers into accepting poverty wages while corporate revenue soars, the Shutter said. Here's a secret. I got a secret for you. Come here. Come here. A little closer. That's every company! That is not something specific to Amazon, Walmart, and DoorDash, Starbucks, Target. I don't think you can name a single industry that doesn't have unions that don't have these problems. I mean, seriously, did you even think about that before saying something? No? I thought so. The companies were asked to respond to these allegations within 60 days, but by October 31st deadline, only Amazon provided a reply after letters were made public. Doordash disputed the allegations and agreed to provide a more detailed response in coming weeks. Honestly, I don't even know why you need to answer these people. They have no idea what they're talking about. What these companies do for the most part is not illegal, DeShutter told The Guardian. What they do is use the loopholes in the system, for example, misclassifying workers as independent contractors rather than employees. There are many loopholes in the system that the US government is still responsible for, and I'm still expecting an answer from the Department of Labor. And you know what's great about this particular loophole? It's not something you're welcome to mess with. Honestly, have you even asked an actual independent contractor, someone who's actually successful in this business, what they think about this? No? That's because you haven't thought about that at all. Do you know how to think? Probably not. If you don't like how things are running in your countries, go fix your own countries, but don't bring your problems here. Earlier this year, DeShutter wrote a letter to the US government detailing the allegations that Amazon, DoorDash, and Walmart contribute to in-work poverty among their employees, in violation of US and international labor protections and international human rights obligations. And the problem is still not the independent contractor side. In fact, if you mess with that, the entire country's going to hell. I'm not even kidding when I say that. Like, seriously, you didn't want to mess with the prices of everything being sky high. You didn't want to mess with employees, actual W-2 employees having these problems. You decided to pick 3 companies that have independent contractors and attack them for having independent contractors making more money as an independent contractor than they've ever made as an employee, a lot of which have actually said they left normal 9-to-5 job, me one of them, to be an independent contractor full-time because they make more doing this than they've ever made being a normal W-2 employee. And yet here you are stupidly trying to attack our country. According to the information received, in work poverty is still directly linked to US law and policy, including highly inadequate and inconsistent pay, systematic improper worker classification, and a proliferation of gig work, paltry social protection, weak and unenforced labor law, widespread discrimination, and a lack of protections for workers at higher risk of poverty, the letter states. Let's actually fix each one of these points that they said is the problem with poverty these days. It has nothing to do with the cutting out of the middle class or anything, just gig workers as a whole. Let's see. Highly inadequate and inconsistent pay. That's not the problem of the classification of gig workers. That's the problem of base pay as a whole. Systematic improper worker classification and proliferation of gig work. A lot of gig workers are happy being gig workers. Paltry social protection. That doesn't sound like a gig worker problem. That sounds like a banking institution problem that they choose not to fix, but you're going after the companies instead because that's easy instead of what's right. Weak and unenforced labor law, because we're in business for ourselves. We're not W-2 employees, and that's what your problem is. You want more slaves, employees, than you do want people who can actually think on their own. Widespread discrimination, that's a systematic issue. That's not a legal issue, that's a systematic issue. In fact, the discrimination is probably where this attack is coming from, is your discrimination against gig workers. I'm out to the nonsense. And protection for workers at a higher risk for poverty? You mean people who are actually hustling and getting that dough are actually getting that dough and it's a problem for you? Are you serious? Seriously, if this is who is running our literal planet, no wonder why we're all going to hell. Businesses have a responsibility to respect internationally recognized human rights, including the right to a living wage and to join a union without fear of reprisal. DeShutter said in a statement, the allegations against Amazon, DoorDash, and Walmart would constitute flagrant violation of these rights, and it's time for these corporations and the US government to be held accountable. And you know what the worst part is? They do need to be held accountable, but this is not what they need to be held accountable for. This is my opinion. It's worth what you pay for it. None of you pay me. There you go. Honestly, the attacks against gig workers and the overall freedom of our ability to work on our own terms needs to stop. It's like every action that any government takes to help gig workers is just going to hurt them at the end of the day. None of them know what gig workers need. None of them know how to think. It's like they know that this is only going to cause more slavery, more abuse to gig workers in the end of the day, because now they're gonna go be W-2 employees because you had to go abuse your power as a United Nations official. And here we are just trying to live our lives, and bam, these douche waffles decided to step in. Forget the rising prices in every possible part of the globe. Forget the low wages on W-2 employees side that is not being addressed, because it's not just the Doordash, UberEats, and Grubhub drivers, it's the actual W-2 employees. Forget those people. They're not important here. We're just gonna focus on these three companies who are doing well just to attack them for the sake of attacking them. I'm telling you, if the US gets involved in a world war, this is how it's gonna happen. Because the United Nations have stuck their nose in a situation that they had no place sticking their nose in. But one thing I will say is, if the gig economy does fall, it literally took the United Nations sticking their nose in places that they shouldn't in order to make that happen. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. As always, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace!